have mobility here. And so when I met Donnell, I was like the most locked up human being that you've ever met in your life. And what was funny is I had these 11 people helping me, and it was my left hip, and everybody was concentrating on basically that, from my rib cage down. And Donnell was just like horrified by my shoulder girdle. I mean, she was like, like whatever, like I don't know what's going on there, but I can tell you that this is needs so much help. And that was what unlocked. That's what made the pain go away. Was because I have, I mean, this is actually good for me that I could even get my arm here. I mean, I have I'm very, very tight through my shoulders, but I am 1,000 times looser than I was when I started working with Donnell. And that's what was really perpetuating my back pain, is that I had no segmental mobility of my arms. So every time I moved my arms, I was dragging my lower back into the movement, and that was creating, this an inability for anything to ever get better, even for a second. And so that's why from the first class I did with Donnell, she unlocked me like whatever that much. And that first unlocking has been enough to keep me out of that incredible amount of pain. And then the more I get better here, the better I am down here. But she is the only person I have ever met that just was, just kind of turn things around. And I just am so, I'm just so grateful. And I just wish that everybody could experience this the way that I've been able to. And I do tell everyone I know, and I
Half my studio is from her referrals, just so you know. For real. And I love it. So I want to talk about that a little bit, because when I did meet you, I do remember, you were telling me 11 people are working on this, working on this, working on this. And but what about the rest of you? Right. And so that was the lesson, the switch that I needed as well. Before I found out that my hips needed to be replaced, I spent probably 2 years trying to figure out why I had the hip pain. And I went to acupuncture and chiropractic care and physical therapy and dry needling. And I spent so much money and so much time going to these appointments trying to figure out my pain. So when my pain was finally defined for me, and I realized that nothing was going to fix my hips, no exercise, no person, no medicine, no magic trick was going to fix my hips. I needed my hips replaced. I had to stop trying to fix my hips and focus on the rest of my body. And so that is my coaching approach. So when I met Rachel, or anybody like Rachel, and they've worked so hard to get out of pain where their pain site is, I like to focus on everything else. I will be your coach, where the person that says, I'm not going to work on your hip. I'm going to work on your spine, your shoulder mobility, your grip strength, your foot strength, your lymphatic system. I'm going to get you to know your pelvic floor. I'm going to turn on your inner thighs. We're going to learn how to unzip and zip your pelvis. I mean, that's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it takes time, but it does work. And Rachel's story is proof to it, I think, right? That whole approach of if you have pain in the hip, stop trying to fix the hip, work on the rest of you, the rest of your body, make the rest of your body be 100, feeling so good, not 100%, we can never be 100%, but feeling so good that the hip just starts feeling better. Is that kind of the same thing we're talking about here?
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, the funny thing is that's the way I approach lameness in horses as well, because they have a lot of problems that you can't fix. But a lot of times there's a lot of other problems that you can help, that if you help those, you bring up the health of the whole body enough that it's manageable.
And
And
that's the point, right? Like if you're going to be in pain, listen, I couldn't get my hips replaced at 40. The doctors didn't want to replace my hips at 40. And still to this day, people are being told at 40 they shouldn't have hip replacements because I'm hearing about it all the time, right? My doctor says I need both hips replaced, but I'm too young. And I heard that. So what was I supposed to do? My doctor suggested a career change, stop teaching. I love to teach, right? Get a career change, take it easy, wait, go as long as you can, get as old as you can before you have your hips replaced because they're not forever. That's what I heard from 9 doctors, right? And I hated that advice, to be honest with you. So what was I supposed to do? Lose my zeal for life, my lust for life because I was in pain? And so that's my coaching method. My coaching method was I will do anything and everything to keep doing what I want to do on a daily basis, even though I am in pain. I stopped trying to get out of pain and I switched to I'm in pain, let me still live big with it. And that is my approach. And that's why, you said you met me on that outdoor series. I know that I didn't know that part, but that outdoor series was a 7-day mobility series that I did 7 days prior to my first hip replacement. I wanted to do a 1 week movement medicine with everyone and include for myself, but I wanted my community to join me. And that was 7 days before my hip replacement. And I did that out of a need that I just needed community. I was freaking out that week. I mean, were you scared for your surgery?
oh yeah, I mean, I spent 3 years and probably $40,000 trying to avoid having.
Yes.
I mean, I could have had it at any time because I was, I had mine at 56, I guess, and so they, I could have had it at any time, but I didn't want to have it. I like because I'm a holistic doctor, and
Right.
we don't, the body heals all. So I was trying to heal, and I might have got there if I'd met you like earlier, because my situation was more about stability than pathology.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had I like they couldn't get it stabilized, and they wouldn't go in and do anything with the labrum, and they do any, they just, and there was big cysts in there, so it wasn't really an arthritic thing. It was more like the hip was so anterior that I could literally, the femoral head was coming out of my groin, like
Right.
like you could feel it there. It
And your
just,
labrum was torn? Was your labrum?
they never said one way or the other, but it was like I like the hip literally was so far forward in my body, and I think it had kind of been trying to get there my whole life, and it was like all of a sudden it was almost like the joint capsule just kind of
Yeah.
almost gave away in a way.
Yeah.
And it was, I still to this day don't exactly understand. I took a really bad fall at some point, and I have a lot of, like my back, like they would do it. If it wasn't for you, they would be trying to do like a 7,
And I would
5.
not, I do not, I think back surgery should be the one that we avoid the most if
Right.
possible,
Well,
right?
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think we do everything we can with movement. I mean, like you just validated something to me too, because people ask me all the time, how'd you hurt your hips? And I always wonder if I hurt them, but I don't think I did. Do you agree? Looking at my X-rays and stuff, do you think it could have been the way I moved created my problems? I mean, my doctor said that I had hips.
Not it's it's hard to say. I mean, I sometimes think that that level of osteoarthritis at that age, just doing yoga stuff doesn't, I don't really get that. I just wonder if there's something else going on in our bodies, like a level of inflammation that isn't normal, whether it's our diets or like something else going on where we're just, you know, lifestyle, who knows, but creating just a much more hyper inflammatory process. So, if there is a lot of energy at your hips, because of something else, you may be like a higher risk to get arthritis. But I don't really quite get that in, I do think there's definitely some sort of weakness there, something going on in the bone that's setting you up for that kind of problem versus it just being like a one-to-one, you do this, you get this kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
My doctor, the doctor that I had do my hip replacements, I just felt like he got me for the first of 9 doctors. He just got me. You know, he was the only one that said, if you want to hike, you can hike after your hip replacements. If you want to run, you can run after your hip replacements. If you want to yoga, you can. He was the only doctor out of 9 that gave me permission to do that after my hip replacements, right? And he said, you know, you have hips like I would expect a 60-year-old professional football player. This is in your DNA. This is somewhere down the line. This is not your fault. And I just remember big fat tears just falling out of my face, you know, just crying. And I knew, and I was like, okay, sign me up, replace my hip. I was ready. So, you know, people ask